Good morning and welcome. On behalf of our organizing committee, I warmly welcome the authors, the speakers, panelists, session chairs, and participants to day 2 of the 21st IEEE International Conference on Advances in ICT for Emerging Regions, organized by the University of Colombo School of Computing. For the past 20 years, we've been fortunate enough to meet our new authors face to face and meet and greet others in the domain from one single room. But the pandemic has forced us to find alternatives, and I believe we have been successful, so I congratulate our organizing committee on the endeavor. Today, we commence the paper and poster presentations from numerous domains. And in addition to those sessions, we have ahead of us panel discussions and a riveting keynote speech by Dr. Roshan Pires. Dr. Roshan Pires, an alumni of National University of Singapore and University of Moratuwa, currently serves as an assistant professor at the Rochester Institute of Technology, conducting his research on extended reality, haptics, wearable technologies, and more, with a particular focus on human-computer interaction. He's currently exploring a new direction under the theme of immersive accessibility, focusing on the mechanics of human perception, human augmentation, and ubiquitous interactions for accessibility. He will now deliver his keynote speech on designing immersive experiences using multisensory approaches, enlightening us on the use of various multisensory approaches to achieve these altered realities for a range of applications in the industry, entertainment, and various social communities. Sir, now I invite you to take control of the session and deliver your keynote speech.
Thank you very much, Tarshika. And yeah, I'm very happy to join this conference, and congratulations to the organizers. It looks like it's going really well. And in the midst of all these pandemic times, to organize a conference is such a challenging task. I've been organizing a couple of conferences myself, so it's great to be here, and hope you all. My screen. Okay, can you see my screen now?
Yes, sir.
All right, okay. So today I'm going to talk to you about immersive multisensory experiences for virtual reality. So I'm Roshan Pires. I'm an assistant professor at the Rochester Institute of Technology. So before I get started, I'd like to give you a little bit of my background. So I'm originally from Sri Lanka itself. I went to University of Moratuwa, where I did my bachelor's in electrical engineering. And after that, I moved to Singapore, where I joined the mixed reality lab and did my PhD at the same place at the Qt Center. And then I moved to the augmented human lab that was looking more into the direction of human augmentation at the Singapore University of Technology and Design. And then several years later, I moved to Japan, where I was a senior assistant professor with the KO Media Design, where I worked at the embodied media group, where I was like, that's where I actually started looking more into virtual reality and haptics type of technologies. And a couple of years ago, I joined RIT, or Rochester Institute of Technology, as an assistant professor. So I'm working in the School of Information, where I'm mostly focusing on extended reality technologies, haptics, and especially focusing on accessibility. So today I'm going to talk about most of my work that I've primarily been focusing on sort of immersive experiences. And this was work that I started in Japan, and now I'm continuing it here in at the Rochester Institute of Technology.
Recording in progress.
Yeah, so I lead this group called Altered Reality, where our main goal is to look at understanding the human perception or the mechanics of human perception to create new technologies that can alter and enhance our experiences. So basically, we are looking at creating new immersive experiences and looking at various use cases for that. And we do research in under several main themes like understanding perception. So I'm very interested in looking at the human perception mechanics, like for instance, the neurophysiological or the psychophysical aspects of our senses, how we sense things in the real world, and then using that knowledge to create sort of foundational technologies. So I'll be showing you some of the work that we've been doing in this area, especially looking at things like the thermal sensation and like various other kinds of sensors as well. And we use these understandings and these technologies to create new experiences. So we don't want to just know like what is happening in the human body, but we also wanted to see how we can create new experiences by using these things for various applications like entertainment and like accessibility that we are starting to focus on right now. So I was very interested in like how our skin works or like how our senses work. So when I started looking into the sensors in our skin, we saw like there are several receptors in our skin, like these receptors that are looking that are trying to sense our sense the temperature, right? If there's a temperature change in the environment, we can sense that, or like other sensations like touch or pressure or like vibrations, right? So these senses like all work together for us to feel different types of sensations, like for instance the wind or like some water on our skin or things like that. Especially if you look at this diagram here, like you see several types of receptors that are actually focusing on temperature, sensing touch, sensing pain, and sensing pressure, right? But if you look further, like there are no receptors in our skin that sense things like wind or sense things like water, right? Like they're all sensed through the combination of these things and by forming sort of a perception in our brain, right? So using this knowledge, researchers have created this diagram called the homunculus diagram. I'm not sure if you have come across this one. So this is quite an interesting diagram. So if you look closely here, you can see that this is sort of a part of the brain, right? And this diagram represents how the brain is distributed, how the processing in the brain is distributed for various parts of the body. So, for example, if you take a look at the hand here, like it seems a bit bigger than the rest of the parts, whereas like the nose, the lips, they are a little bit more bigger as well. So that through this diagram, that implies that our sensors on our skin are more focused on these regions. If you look at the feet, it's not as rich with receptors such as like vibration receptors or like touch receptors as much as the when compared to the hand or the face. So by looking at this previous research and trying to understand how like our skin was working, I started looking initially into this idea of like exploring multisensory interactions on and around the face and the head. So a common question that I get is why did we focus on the head? And like yeah, so if you look at this diagram once again, right, you see that there's a bigger portion here that in the homunculus diagram, you can see that the lips, the nose, and the tongue, they're actually quite bigger than the rest of the body, right? So that means that our face and the head are very sensitive compared to rest of the body, right? So this is kind of an interesting aspect that I wanted to explore further. So I wanted to see um, why what we can do with that, right? So if you look a little bit more into various types of sensations on the face, you see that for example in this diagram it shows from some recent research that showed that the face is actually very sensitive to temperatures as well. So and besides that, we also saw that the face is the most sensitive skin site on the human body, and also like it's most of the time it's uncovered, but right now like because of the pandemic we are all wearing masks, but also that gives us a lot of opportunities to add more wearable devices around the head and the face. And another advantage is like we don't need very complex mechanical system. So if we put something on the head and the face, like we those things will move around uh, with our movement. So like it makes it easier for us to explore some sort of multisensory interactions directly on the face. So with that, I was at the very beginning, I was very interested in how our thermal perception works on the face, right? So there was a lot of research that had been done on the using vibrations with the head, but there was a key limitation, right? So for example, if you vibrate one region of the head, you can feel that vibration all across the skull, right? Like all across the head. So because of that, it was not so easy to give some localized feedback, or expand some type of multisensory interactions, just because like the vibrations travel through our head, like just because it's a kind of a one common mechanical structure, right? And so because of that, I was quite interested in exploring thermal feedback on the face, and I wanted to see if we could be able to recognize several types of feedback if we give them at the same time. So for this, we use these devices called Peltier elements, right? So these are actually semiconductor elements that are that can rapidly change temperature, right? So in this particular device, I have like we have integrated four of these Peltier modules. But how the Peltier module works is like if you send current in one direction, it changes temperature by the top surface heats up and the bottom surface cools down. But if you just send the current in the other direction, then the opposite happens, where the top surface cools down and the bottom surface heats up. So this was and this can happen very fast, right? Like we can achieve temperature changes like 6 Celsius per second. I haven't used that, but I've used quite fast changing temperatures as well. And so if you look at this particular module that we used, there are four modules integrated here, as I mentioned before, and we actuate them in a diagonal format, right? Just because like we can achieve some, just because we wanted to achieve some fast changing temperatures, right? And we also use like some other principles that have been discovered in the past, like for instance, when we give temperature feedback like this across this diagonal in this diagonal manner, you cannot actually feel this two different types of, or like anyways, like you can feel this temperature feedback as a whole, right? So yeah, this is a bit more complex. I don't want to go into more detail about this, but these were the devices that we used for temperature changes in our experiments. So in the first study, we did this kind of very simple experiment where we placed some of these modules directly on a participant's face. And we gave different types of temperature feedback, like for instance, cooling sensation here, hot here, and maybe cooling here again. And we changed these types of combinations. And we asked the participants to guess which one is which, and like which module is hot, which module is cold, which module is switched off, or something like that. And we found that actually the participants could recognize all the modules separately. And we found that they could recognize that very accurately for when it came to cold temperatures, right? So that was quite interesting, just because then when we looked more into the literature, we found out that we have actually more cold receptors on our skin than hot receptors. So this was an interesting finding right at the beginning of our research. Then because we were interested in integrating all these types of feedback with in a wearable fashion, we wanted to see what happens when we move around, right? Like what happens when we move our head around, and when we do various things like that, can we still perceive the temperature more accurately, right? So here we did this kind of experiment where we got the participants to move their head, and as they were moving their head, like we gave some temperature feedback in different locations on the head, and we asked them to guess where that temperature feedback was coming from. And again, we found out that like with temperature compared to vibration, they can do this much more accurately. And also, like, it works really well with cold feedback, right? So if you feel some kind of cold sensation, you can feel it a bit more accurately in terms of like where it's coming from, and probably a bit more about like how cold it is and things like that, compared to if we give a hot temperature. So using this kind of knowledge, like we wanted to look at what kind of applications we can create with this. So one of the first applications that we thought of was, hey, there's a lot of virtual reality happening recently, so why don't we integrate it with that to see what kind of applications that we can create with that. So we started working on this idea, and we implemented this prototype that basically integrated a bunch of thermal feedback devices, as you can see here, that can provide like various types of thermal feedback, right? So you can give hot and cold and different types of feedback. And we wanted to see how well a person who is using this can recognize this feedback. And also we wanted to explore what their sensations will be like, and what their feedback will be like. So we conducted another experiment. So again, like I won't go into much detail about these experiments. We were always like quite interested in, under these different contexts, how the participants can feel these types of different feedback, right? So we again gave hot and cold feedback, and we gave using different combinations, and we asked the participants to guess where the feedback came from. Again, like constantly we keep seeing that cold feedback works really well, but we still wanted to explore what we can do with hot feedback as well, for especially for virtual reality applications. So in this module, we only had 5 modules, but we wanted to also explore these moving types of sensations, right? So like, for instance, if there's a wind, right, like you can feel some sort of movement on the face. If there's like a water droplet, like you can feel that movement as well. So we want to see if we can create this moving sensation again with the with these types of modules, right? So again, we created another new experiment that looked at exploring these types of thermal movements across the face, and we also wanted to see like what the participants' feedback was. And mainly we were exploring what are the ideal timings, and we did some psychophysical experiments to get the optimal parameters for this type of sensations. So as you saw, like there was a lot of background experiments that we did with this research. So we wanted to see, how do we feel temperature feedback on the face, and if we combine it if we use it in different see and feel that. And using all that knowledge, we again made this device that can provide like different types of feedback, where all these modules are actuating together, or they can create moving sensations. And from there, we started looking at what type of applications we can use this for. So one of the first applications was we created this type of weather application where the participant can, not just see what the weather is like in one city, but also feel what the weather is like and see, if it's raining or if it's sunny, right? So when they go to California, they can feel the warm feeling, or when they went to Tokyo before, they can feel the coldness from the rain, right? And then we created this another game where in this snowy weather, like the person is supposed to find their camp, right? So we give some hot feedback for the person so that like they can feel the heat from the campfire, so they can look at the camp. If they get delayed to look at the camp, it gets more cold and colder before it gets quite uncomfortable. So like using these kinds of games, and also we explored another application. Where's that? Yeah. So another application was when like this kitchen. So this is a virtual kitchen. So as they open the fridge, they can feel the cold feedback. And when they go towards the stove and pick up some cooking pots or like pans to cook, like they can feel the warmth. And we also, because the kitchen is sometimes a hot place, we put a fan there. You can switch on the fan. And there was an interesting discussion after participants experienced this, because they thought like actually we had some fans that provided the feedback on the face, but instead like it was interesting to see that this was actually because when we played this fan animation, we also played the sound of a fan moving, and with the cold thermal feedback moving across the face as well. So with all these things and the visuals and the haptic feedback, the participants thought that we were actually, we had a different fan that we provided some kind of a wind feedback, but it was actually inside the brain that we were creating all these connections. So this was quite an interesting experience to see that. And some videos more immersive, right? So in that earlier video you saw like someone spraying water, and we provided cold feedback with this. In this case, my student is holding sort of a hair dryer, and we provided like hot feedback when they were doing that. And yeah, so we were just quite exploring a lot of different types of applications with these things, and we got the participants feedback from that. And there was like a lot of interesting things that the participants said. Like for instance, initially they were saying, when we were doing the previous experiments, they were saying things like, oh, I felt like it was opening an oven, like when they got all the hot feedback. And that's where like some of these applications came by, where we created like a virtual kitchen, right? And then quite often we heard this comment about like, how did you spray water? How did you spray water on my face? Or sometimes the participant would remove their headset and like wipe their face, or ask us for a towel to wipe their face, because for some reason they were feeling this water kind of sensation. And this was quite interesting, because we did not have anything, but this was quite constantly happening. So we found out that it was actually during this when the participant went to Tokyo, it was raining. And also in that other application where they saw like this sort of water spraying, that's when they thought like the actual water was being sprayed on their face. So that led us to look into more research about like how we feel water on our face. And that also led us to a new research direction as well, that looked at creating liquid sensations. So if you look at this diagram again, right, and see here, like as I mentioned before, there are no sensors on our skin that sense liquid or sense water, right? So um, we have things for sensing temperature, we have things for sensing pressure, right? But there's nothing to sense water. Some animals do have that, but humans don't have that. And when we looked into it, we found out that it was quite an interesting sensation, that it's actually through a temperature change on our skin and a mechanosensation, or like a small pressure change, that we sense something like liquid, right? It's not something that we sense directly, but it's something that we sense through like a perceptual experience, right? So there was this one study done by this group that looked at, giving some sort of they cooled down a small metal piece, and then they kept it on a participant's skin, right? And the participant didn't see where the stimulus was coming from, and when they asked how wet the stimulus, or they all thought it was like a water droplet. So that's when they understood actually how we feel wetness is through these kinds of thermal changes. So now that we have like this device that can create thermal feedback, right? So we wanted to explore what we can do with that in with virtual reality as well. So with virtual reality for creating liquid sensation. So we did another experiment that looked at, using the thermal feedback, and also we explored using a vibrotactile feedback as well, to create these kinds of liquid sensations. And we got all the participants to do a similar kind of experiment, where we got them to rate how wet they felt the sensations were, and how comfortable the stimuli were. And we found out like at certain temperature change rates, we could create like a very good sensations of like a water droplet on the skin. And we use this for various experiences at the beginning, just like for underwater simulations, or like other types of applications. And with that, another application that we just wanted to create was this type of shower sensation, right? Like we wanted to, there was actually just another student who did this kind of whole body experience with vibrations in our school. And then I talked to them, and like we decided to explore, creating sort of a new experiment with this. And that's where we made this whole setup that looked at, that can create this whole body sensation of vibrations and thermal sensations moving across the body, right? So so again, like using that principles, those same principles from the thermal moving experiments, thermal movement experiments, and also vibration movement research that has been done in the past, we created this whole body experience where you can feel this kind of feedback moving across the body. And we created this very interesting shower experience. So you could actually feel a virtual shower. This was just for a demonstration, kind of like a fun experiment, fun application that we created. So here, as the participant gets on this puts on this device, and they can experience this type of we had this virtual shower that when you switch it on, like you can feel like this virtual droplets on the face, and also like feel like taking a virtual shower. So this was just a simple application, but one interesting thing was we visited this nursing home back in Japan, and we got the participants to experience this, the residents in the nursing home to experience this application. And one of the this older gentleman, he mentioned that that like sometimes their caretakers, they have to wait for their caretakers to take a shower, right? So in the summertime it could be very warm, and like they want to take a shower, but they cannot do that like without their caretaker, right? So with this device they were actually feeling quite refreshed. And so we wanted to see, like, can we take this into so like they said, like, with this sort of thing they can create some sort of a they can maybe feel a little refreshed temporarily until the caretaker comes in, right? So with those kinds of experiences and those kind of feedback, like it was quite inspiring that this type of very simple technology can be beneficial to so many, or like create new applications for so many different user groups, right? So with that, another application that we looked at is again like combining thermal feedback for remote applications as well. So we had this robot in the lab that can do what's called telepresence, right? So so if you look at this video, so this, as you see here, um, this yeah, this person here is wearing this headset, and based on his head movements this robot moves, and so he can have like this conversation or like be present in another place. So that's what we call that's why we call this a telepresence robot. And what we basically did was we wanted to see what we can do with this it's jumping around, yeah. What we can do if we combine like our thermal feedback system for telepresence application. So basically we put 4 temperature sensors on this robot, and then we attach the modules on the other side on the headset, the temperature modules on the headset. And again, like we just got participants to use this, and we wanted to see what kind of things or what kind of interactions the participants will do with this robot, right? So many participants just started interacting with it just by touching the face before. So we saw like there was a significant improvement. Like before, like no one was touching the robot, they felt quite intimidated. But like when we put these kinds of interactions, they felt like, oh yeah, I can touch the face and send my warmer to the other person, right? Then another person like just started holding this hair dryer thing. This is actually a hot air gun, right? So just to try to see like playfully if they can sort of create a quite warm temperature on that side. And this another person came and like kept their soda can, right? Like, or the soft drink can they had in their hand directly on the face of the robot to see like can the other person feel the coldness, right? So we saw that like there were these kinds of very interesting interactions that people came up with. And another, like one of my favorite interactions was like in this case, this person just started fanning this robot. And again, like as you may have remembered from the kitchen demo, when this person started fanning, from the sound, from the visuals and the thermal feedback, the person actually felt like there was a wind on their face, right? So this was quite interesting to see this happening, right? And these kinds of things happening continuously in our research, right? Yeah. And yeah, probably I'll go through this project as well. Yeah, so all this time I was talking about thermal feedback, but we also started exploring into other directions as well, like uh, pressure feedback. So we made this type of device that basically put we put some like device that can pull on the straps of the head mounted display, so that it creates sort of a force feedback directly on the face, right? So we could create things like um, we could create things like boxing games. I'm sorry, I cannot move the video here, right? Boxing and oh yeah, here it is. Right. So like when the boxer here punches you, like you can directly feel the heat on the face. And again, like we try to look at other applications as well. Like for instance, an underwater experience. We again put the thermal modules, and then like you can feel the water current on the face, and things like that, right? So the interesting thing is, like when you experience these virtual reality visuals, like with this type of very small feedback systems, right, like you can actually feel quite immersed in that experience, right? And like we also found them to be quite enhancing our experiences as well. That's what we found out in this project, where we just looked at extending your nose, right, just like Pinocchio's nose, right? So my student just came up with this idea for a gaming competition, and so like it was quite interesting. What they did was basically put a string on they put a plaster on the nose and pulled it with a string, right? And then we try to look at these types of like crazy interactions, right? And we did a small experiment to see like how it affects the sense of smell. So we showed like these kinds of visuals, like an apple or a coffee or things like that. And when we pulled on the nose, we found out like the participants felt that these things were actually closer, right? So we saw that that was quite interesting. And yeah, so from the nose, like my another student went into exploring with the ear, right? Like, how our ear is actually like kind of, we cannot move our ear, but what happens if we move our ear like this, right? So they made this prototype where like basically you wear this kind of headset, and then that can push on the ear and open and close the ear. So earlier we were quite interested in these things, but we again did another small experiment that basically looked at the sound perception as well, and we saw that we can alter where the sound is coming from. So just by changing like how much the ears are open and closed, like just like a dog or a cat, how they move their ears, right? So this is the experiment that we did. We provided sound from different locations, opened and closed the ears in different manner, and like asked them where the sound is coming from. So this could be very useful for different types of applications. Like for instance, in noisy environments, you could close the ears, and also like if you could probably focus your attention or focus your hearing towards something like that, sort of like a forced cocktail party effect, if you know that effect, right? Yeah, and yeah, so like these are some interesting things that we saw through this sort of research, right? So since we are running out of time, I'll move into some of the latest research that I'm working on right now, right? So all this time my work has been focusing on creating new experiences, and using sort of multisensory technologies to explore, enhancing our perception, enhancing our abilities, augmenting our like abilities and things like that. So since joining RIT, or my Rochester Institute of Technology, there's a lot of research that's focused on accessibility here. So, for instance, Rochester is the biggest. Rochester has the biggest deaf population in the U.S. And like for instance, my like when I'm teaching, we have interpreters. We have a lot of deaf students in the class. So deaf or hard of hearing students. So this was like I wanted to see where my research can go in terms of like combining it with accessibility. So we came up with this theme called immersive accessibility, basically looking at immersive technologies such as AR, VR, and haptics, using them for accessibility applications, right? So with immersive accessibility, I'm looking into two main research themes. First is immersive technologies for accessibility, right? So basically using technologies such as haptics for accessibility purposes, right? So a couple of the ongoing projects that we are doing right now is this haptic authentication project for blind users. So for example, a blind user, when they enter their PIN codes, it usually reads out the PIN codes, right? But we wanted to see communicate or like haptics to enable them to enter PIN codes in a much more safer manner. And another project that we are doing is called haptic captioning. So here we are using haptics for with deaf or hard of hearing users, right? So one of the major issues that deaf or hard of hearing users face is like, for instance, in a live, for example, in a live panel discussion, right? It's difficult to figure out who is speaking when they are focusing exactly mainly on the captions or the subtitles, right? So we are trying to explore using things like uh, haptic feedback to indicate like the speakers or like various kinds of things like on top of using the captions. So basically it's looking at enhancing the captioning experience for deaf or hard of hearing users. And in the second theme, we are looking at making immersive technologies accessible as well. So for example, making augmented reality or virtual reality accessible for certain user groups, right? So one of the projects is looking at making VR accessible for wheelchair users, right? We could be, using wheelchair as a platform as well, because it's kind of a moving platform. It could be interesting to create new experiences with that. And also like, how to create like new interactions with wheelchair users for VR as well. And another one is again like exploring making VR or AR like more accessible for blind users. And yeah, so with that, like there are several projects that we are working on. And yeah, so another like one main project that's ongoing right now is under these research themes are sound mapping for deaf or hard of hearing users in virtual reality, right? So one of the major issues is that like it's difficult to figure out where are sounds coming from in virtual reality, right? If you're playing a game, for example, if someone's shooting at you, a hearing person can figure out where the sound is coming from, but um, uh, um, a deaf person would not be able to figure out where that's coming from. So in order for that, we are exploring several sound mapping methods, right? Like we are trying to see how we can give direction or like indicate different types where sounds are coming from for different applications. So in this case, like you can see, we are making a mini map to indicate where the sounds are coming from. This is actually my kitchen demo. So my PhD student Zeeming, he's working on this, and we are trying to explore like different types of visualizations, different types of haptics for this kind of purpose, right? So with that, I think I'll end my talk here, right? So I thank you all for listening, right? And I'd like to take any questions. Yeah, thank you very much. I can see hands being raised.
Yes, Dr. Rashan, thank you so much for the interesting talk. Yeah, actually, while listening to your talk, I just recall that a book I read. I think you have heard about him, David Eagleman. There's a neuroscientist called David Eagleman. I think he's in Stanford. So he actually he was. I think there's a famous TED talk from him where he talks about this thing called brain plasticity. So he's actually his focus is on like sensory substitution. So he's For example, one example he was giving was he has built a kind of a wristband. So let's say an investor, when the stock prices are going up and down, he need to sense it, right? So instead of feeling it as a temperature or some pain or something, he's trying to directly make it a sensation, so that, you know, through a wearable, you just feel that, okay, okay, my stocks values are going up or something directly. So similarly, I don't know, maybe a system administrator would like to sense that there's okay, there's too much traffic on the server or whatever. So what do you think about that kind of sensory substitutions? How possible these are?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a very interesting question and very interesting outlook on it. And in my latest research, like our group is focusing on these kinds of sensory substitutions, especially when it comes to like this, for example, in this haptic captioning project, right? So like what we are trying to do is using haptic feedback in the place of sound for deaf or hard of hearing users. And there has been research that has shown that, you know, for instance, you know, a deaf person might be more sensitive to haptic feedback or like vibration feedback. And I think I attended one talk long time ago. I can't remember who the speaker was, but they did some brain scans of some deaf participants while receiving haptic feedback, and they saw that in the brain, like it started using actually the hearing portion to decode those haptic feedback, something like that. So there's always like these kinds of adaptations that happen in our brain or in our perception. That's kind of like the brain plasticity, as you mentioned, right? So I think it shows like that we sometimes when one sensory level goes down, like we heighten our other senses so that like we can adapt to the situation and you know, still be still sense the world around us. So yeah, I think that's a very interesting outlook on that. And I guess like that's kind of where we are headed as well, in terms of, you know, looking at these kinds of multisensory technologies for accessibility applications as well. Thank you for that question. I hope it answered. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Yes. Now, what is this thermal vision? In some of your slides, you had the term thermal vision.
Yes, maybe is it like these slides, thermal vision. Yeah. So this is just like a thermal camera that we used, and that's what we wanted to show. Like this is just the thermal vision of how our modules work, right? It's nothing related to a vision application or anything like that. It's just this is the thermal cameras recording that we wanted to show, so that like it's clear how the thermal feedback system works.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Roshan, I have one question.
Yeah.
So, regarding the simulation of different sensations in the real world with the thermal device. I mean, is it possible to do almost everything, like to simulate the sense of air, the touch, and then the watery sensation that you try to simulate with the same sensor? So, like, can it do this everything, almost everything, at least in the head area?
Yeah, that's an interesting question as well. So I think like we've experienced some sensations. Are you like, for instance, like the water and wind things? Like we just started exploring just from the participants' feedback, right? But I believe wherever, like, we on the skin, wherever we have like these receptors, which is pretty much everywhere, we should be able to sense these types of sensations. But the only thing is the distribution of these receptors are not the same everywhere. So that means some areas on our skin are a bit more sensitive than the others. So in these situations, yeah, it might be a bit more sensitive. So for example, in the winter time, we cover, some regions a bit more than the other regions and things like that. So that's because of, like, our sensory distributions are a little bit different, right? I hope that answered.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Thank you. Yes, I can see Akila's.
Hello, Dr. Prashan, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear.
Yeah, so yeah, I have a small question. So in in our undergraduate research, we did a research related to AR, where we used AR to give sort of mindfulness interventions for the acute stress, like physical and psychological stresses. So in this research, of course, you talk about that how we use the VR to give the several sensations. But what I want to know is that whether the sensation we give through the same sensors with using the VR and AR would be different. I mean, much better immersion. That will it trick the brain much better? Something like that. Would it do?
Yes, I think, yeah, like, great question. So like, there's this thing called the reality spectrum, right? So I think AR and VR are, like, kind of in the same spectrum, right? So AR is a bit more real, right? Like, you augment virtual things in the real world, but VR is like completely virtual, right? So I think in that sense, VR is like little more easier to create it a bit more immersive, right? Just because, like, I think everything is covered, and, like, you see directly what's in front of, like, what's projected on the screen. Whereas in AR, like, there could be, you're augmenting the real world, right? So there could be other distractions and things. So but I think still it's like an interesting area to explore, like the connection between these two platforms as well, right? So for example, VR still has limitations, like, for instance, uh, like, if the VR experience is not perfect, right? Like, you are reminded that you're in virtual reality, right? So because of that, like, that experience can break. So one example is that when we did that underwater demo for during one of the conferences, one participant said that, like, when they moved their head very fast, the thermal feedback did not follow that speed, like, it was too slow, right? But then they realized, like, they were not in they were in virtual reality because their immersion broke, right? Like, their mental state changed, right? Just because, like, that there was a mismatch between what they were seeing and their sensations, right? So because of these things, like again, it can be affected, right? So it's important that we pay a close attention to, like when designing these experiences, to these kinds of factors. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Are there any more questions for Dr. Ushan from the participants? In that case, thank you, Dr. Roshan, for that most riveting and illuminating speech. It makes us wonder about our minds and the capabilities of different technologies to influence our minds and sensations in a particular way. It's all very fascinating. Thank you very much again, Dr. Roshan, for reminding us that the capabilities of technology are limitless and that it even extends to the marginalized communities such as the differently able. With that, let's move on to the next item on the agenda. So this conference is the hard work of organizers, but we cannot ever forget the contribution of our platinum member, SoftLogic IT, with whose continuous support we have come this far. So with that, I invite Mr. Bhagyahetty Arachi, the Product Sales Manager, Client Solutions, at Dell Global on behalf of SoftLogic IT to address our participants.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. I hope you can see my screen. If you can confirm.
Yes, Mr. Tiarach, we can see the screen.
You see one screen, right?
Yes, we see
All
both
right.
screens actually, our speaker notes as well.
Yes, thank you very much. And I was really happy that I can take part of this event of the ICTer 2021, as well as SoftLogic Information Technologies, giving us this opportunity to share some of the experiences that we found out during the workforce transformation journey. And I would really love to hear more about Dr. Rohan Perez, because that was really interesting topic that I ever heard in my past. Thank you very much, Dr. Rohan, for that. And I really am trying to align because some of the part of the discussion was based on augmented reality, virtual reality. And I'm happy to say that we contribute the majority of our workstations and help organizations achieve their goals during their workforce transformation. You know, it's work that this is really relevant in today's context. You know, we have been, the world has been going through a tough time for the past 2 years, and we all know that the workplace is no more a place where we can go almost every day. So everything has been stopped, right? We saw people, you know, a lot of job cuts. The organizations couldn't achieve their goals. So, you know, and they were, you know, unable to, you know, even communicate. So this workforce transformation is nothing but Dell Technologies has actually came up with this idea a few years ago, how to help organizations achieve the goals of their organization by helping employees giving right devices and applications, right? So I'm going to share the same experiences, how we help organizations achieve their goals by having right employees, devices, applications, and make sure that you have the right workforce in the organizations. We all know that retaining employees today is a tough job because the workforce today is more intelligent than all of us. They carry the most intelligent and advanced devices with them, and they want the same to be experienced at offices, right? We all know. As I speak right now, and the majority of the audience here is the undergraduates, the graduate students from various universities, and you must be uh, witnessing my statement. And let me take you through some of the uh, solutions that we can provide during this transformation. Okay, I've just discussed technology is transforming, and it's transforming at an ever increasing, space. And in order to keep pace with this, the organizations struggle, and they don't know what devices or the application that they should incorporate or adopt during the workforce transformation. So as Dell Technologies, we would love to uh, share the devices, the experiences that we had worldwide. And we have already supported organizations to achieve their the goals. And going forward, as I told you, it's not a one place. It's not 8:30 to 5 job, right? It's not you go to office, you put your signature, right? Context, working is from everywhere. You need to collaborate. You need to talk to your peers, because during this pandemic, we all were unable to, meet face to face, right? So the challenge the organizations had was, how do we enable discussions? How do we collaborate? How do we have a secured collaborations? What devices we should incorporate, right? And as you can see here, the experiences and the information that we have done through research and development was that 42%, right, would quit a job over poor technology. That, the younger generation today, they are tech savvy. They have all these high-tech devices, right? When they go to offices and then when they hinder with, the speeds of the internet, or maybe the internet, or maybe the data that they experience, when they hinder, sometimes they feel that the organization is not giving them the right support to deliver the achievements of an organization or the employees, right? Some say, or maybe 82% say, technology influences the job they take. So this is a right example, because you see the employees who go for an interview, not like the generation we saw few decades ago. They come and experience the organization by looking at the employees or the devices that the organization has already adapted. So what happens is, before the interview, they look at the experience, they look at the environment of that organization, and then they take a decision. This is not the right place for me to work. And then they cross-check with the employees, so the people that they know, right? And even 44% think, the workplace isn't smart enough. That is simply because the collaboration tools, the data, or maybe the applications or the devices that they use are not modern. Or even though the devices are modern, the applications are not uh, tech savvy or capable enough to achieve their the goals of the organization. So this is a fact, right? Okay, transforming your workforce starts by putting your employees first. You know, we can't forget about the employees today simply because the employees are the ones who help the organization to achieve the goals of the organization. We have to accept the fact that without employees, the organizations cannot run. So we had a different mentality one time ago that we provide devices or we provide technologies that the employees follow, but it's not anymore. We need to make sure your workforce, the people, the devices for each and every employee. It may be an employee from accounts department. It may be an employee from uh, logistics. We need to make sure we consult and talk to them and make sure that we identify the pain points and then take a decision on the implementation of purchasing the devices for the employees, because employees cannot be 24/7 at one place. They have to be in different locations, right? That is why technology is always changing. We need to make sure we give those right devices, right? The key to success for a successful transformation is to make sure that it is not technology centric. We need to make sure we put our people first. So having this in mind, let's find out more about the workforce transformation. Right. So that I told you a while ago. So we need to understand employees and we need to make sure we identify them and then we decide which devices that we should decide and the applications for them, right? So we have done a research with Intel, collaborating Intel and Dell, and we found out that for different personas, we should give different devices. So with that in mind, we have researched, spoken to people, heard them, pain points, everything. And we have devices tailor-made for each and everyone, right? As you can see here, there are 7 workforce personas that you meet almost every day. As you are undergraduates right now, you will be one day working in an organization as a CIO, Chief Technical Officer, maybe a CEO, or maybe head of IT. So the information that I share with you will help you to understand what type of employees the organizations have. Right now, as you are undergraduates, you would have seen this and you would have met them during your day-to-day operation. You would have seen people at universities working on desk, right? 50% of their time is looking at the computer, or maybe it may be a lab who's doing research and development, right? 50% or 60% of their time. What are the devices that Dell Technologies has introduced them? How do they achieve this? And there are certain employees like corridor warriors. What I mean is corridor warriors are the people who go to meeting. You would have seen merchandisers who has been collaborating with foreign principals, and what devices we can incorporate them, and how do as undergraduates, as when you are on the hot seats like CEOs, CIOs, how do you decide what type of persona and what devices you should give is based on these 7 workforce persona. So for corridor warriors, we have different devices with applications, which is very lightweight, 2-in-1s, right, or tablets, right? Even there are certain type of caliber called on the go pro, people who travel from place to place, right? Collaborating, talking to head office, checking the logistics, right? So we have all these devices which will not hinder their day-to-day operations, that the organizations achieve the goals, right, wherever they are. And then there are a set of employees who work remotely. As you know, today is new normal. the organizations have adapted new ways of working in organizations, right? It was not 24/7 or 8/5. They can log into systems, so they can work wherever they are. So we have devices for them as well. And there are creative workers who are creative, and we need to make sure we give them high performance systems, right? And there are engineers, right, who do high performance computing. And sometimes, as Dr. Rohan said, there are certain type of set of people like who do research and development on virtual reality, augmented reality. We do have devices designed for them, right? And there are certain type of people who work outside office, like oil and gas industries. We have devices like rugged laptops and tablets designed for them. And there are certain employees or the type of verticals, oil and gas, military, if you take organizations like creative engineers, we have all these applications and devices tailor-made for them, right? So this is why the workforce transformation is very important. We need to make sure we look at these 7 workforce personas. Wherever you are, you can't forget them. You need to make sure you identify them rather than just throwing specifications. When you identify these workforce personas, what invest on right applications and devices. You don't need to worry about specifications. Our consultation for organizations, my consultation for organizations is based on these 7 workforce personas. It's very easy for me. You need to listen to them and make sure you understand them, their pain points, and then you offer the right applications so that you make the balanced investments. Right. So modernize end user computing. How do we modernize all these modernized end user computing with right devices and applications? What are the solutions we have? What are the products and applications that Dell Technologies has developed? We have the breadth of portfolios for any organization, right? Starting from fixed solutions like desktops, we have Optiplex, the commercial portfolio. The desktops we have all-in-ones for space saving, everything is in one. And then we have micro form factors for organizations who wants space saving, right? And then we have ultra form factors as well, right? And then as Dr. Rohan Paris was sharing his presentation, I'm happy to share, we do align with the research and development like that. We do have products like we have Dell Precision workstations, starting from mobile workstations to tower workstations to rack workstations. So we cater to any persona, any organization with right applications, devices, specifications. We can support any organizations. And then we have laptops, right? We have very intelligent laptops, right? It is intelligent because we incorporate artificial intelligence machine learning software on that. I want to run through a small video. I can share it with you later. Also, we have complete portfolio of display and client peripherals for whoever the workforce that is really required. As today, when companies adapted a hybrid workplace, right? Sometimes it may be hot desking, so that the organizations are looking at cost-effective ways to, run the organizations, because Sri Lanka had to go through rigorous time where employment security is challenged, the organizations are challenged, the economy is challenged, and we are completely going through a very tough time. And in order to meet this, Dell Technologies can help organizations to invest on right devices and applications. And I'm thankful that I have this opportunity to share those with you. So as you can see, this is our commercial portfolio of desktops. We have form factors and we have micro form factors. Also, we have all-in-ones, as well as we have specialty products, right? And just to share with you, It's not just products that we design. We make sure that our products, and we make sure that we help environment protected. So how do we protect our environment? We collect plastics, right, from the ocean, because there are so much of plastics which is floating on the sea. And we have seen a lot of trouble, and we have had a lot of CSR projects in Sri Lanka where we collected all these plastic bottles and we have given it to organizations where they recycle. Likewise, there are 66 direct countries where we directly participate with those companies. We collect ocean-bound plastics and we recycle, and then we incorporate those in our products, so that we make sure that we help environment protected, and we are an ethical organization, so that any Optiplex desktop that you use part of our recycle program. Also, when you make an investment on our commercial portfolio, the Optiplex portfolio, it is not just a device that we have offered you or delivered you. We make sure that our devices are tested with different type of environments. We do test under humidity test. It's maybe drop test, and then we make sure it is undergone with shocks and vibrations, so that your investment is secured at least for 5 years, right? Then coming back to our commercial portfolio of mobile devices, I told you a while ago that we incorporate the most intelligent pieces with Dell Optimizer, right? Dell Optimizer is nothing but an artificial intelligence machine learning software, which sits on the background of your machine and understands how you work. And based on how you work, it determines certain applications for you to, if you want, you can prioritize 5 applications that you want to run fast. For an example, if you want Zoom to be loaded immediately, it will determine that you want Zoom to be enabled. And again, if you want express charge, that the battery has to be charged faster, you can do that. So, and when a conversation like this with an audience, and if I hear a background noise, Dell Optimizer automatically cancels those noises. So it's a cool feature that we provide with our Latitude portfolio, and it is free of charge. I just wanted to run through that video. Please go through it.
We all use our systems in our own way to power. Optimizer uses artificial intelligence to learn and adapt how to use your PC to provide the best experience possible, whether you're at home or at the office. Once the user is Dell Optimizer adjusts your device's audio equalization, reducing background noise and eliminating echo space. Express sign-in will sense the user's presence and will wake the device as they approach. It also allows the device to reuse this system utilization and identify bottlenecks. Reports are available for workload analysis, system analysis, and system diagnostics.
All right, I think you would experience and witness how capable the Dell Optimizer is. And I'm happy to say that all our Latitude portfolio of laptops, two-in-ones, incorporate Dell Optimizer, which is free of charge, right? And just to share you our Latitude, the commercial mobile portfolio, we start with 3000 series, which we have targeted for, essential business needs of the organizations. This is also by looking at the personas. For large organizations, the employees who work outside, or maybe the sales force, this is an ideal device. And we incorporate the latest Intel 11 generation processors. And then, and we have incorporated fingerprint reader or smart card reader, right? And on 5000 series, we have two-in-ones, we have touchscreen devices, right? Starting from 14-inch, 13-inch, as well as 15.6, right? And then now 7000, the premium series, we use Ultra, the portable laptops. Again, we have two-in-ones and detachable on that. And then the most premium series is our 9000 series, right? The 5000 and 7000 series, the difference 5000 and 7000 series is 5000 series, we use recycled carbon fiber from the aeronautical industries, and we incorporate the lid, we completely use that, as well as the surface of the laptop is completely from recycled carbon fiber, right? And the 7000 series, we completely use 100% pure carbon fiber. So the device is very lightweight, and we have targeted it for people who travels a lot, who needs ultra portability, who needs the highest battery power, and as well as who wants, as today's context, people do not like to, type anything, and, the device itself has a stylus pen where you can write everything on that, and then you can have your the information in hand with you, so that you don't need to worry about finding it wherever you have kept. Maybe it may be on your piece of paper. Sometimes you might lose it, but this device will help you, enable you to keep all your information handy wherever it is needed, right? And I just wanted to share you some of the outstanding features that we have. We have incorporated outstanding image qualities where we use temporal noise reduction to improve the video quality. We have full HD cameras on the 5000 and 7000 series. Also, we have express sign-in, right? So this is a cool feature incorporated with Dell Optimizer. The system understands the authenticated user, and it scans you as you close to the machine with the proximity sensor and logs into the system, right? And sometimes if you walk away from your system, it automatically, immediately log off from the system so that your system is protected. So these are some of the cool features and advanced features we have incorporated. You don't need to put your password in, everything is automated, right? And we have incorporated the most safe shutters in the industry on our 9000 series, right? When you log into a Zoom call or a collaboration with your team members, the system automatically opens the camera for you. And this can be, if you want, you can purposely override, can lock it. Maybe sometimes there are surveillance and hacking that can be happen. So we have incorporated all those features on our 9000 series of the mobile devices, right? And then we have incorporated the systems with the bigger screens on a smaller dimension. So our systems comes with four-sided narrow border screens, right? And then we have incorporated advanced thermal solutions to keep the device cool, and it gives you more battery power. And also we have incorporated dual opposite outlet fans where the heat is completely taken out with a new technology. Plus we have incorporated two heat pipes to take out all the heat which is inside. So there is no way that the user feels that the system is hot. System gives you extended performance. And also it has a technology that we have incorporated when you keep the laptop on your lap, it automatically goes to a mode where the user will not feel any heat. So that system automatically identified through Dell Optimizer that the user is using the laptop on the lap, and it gives the highest performance wherever possible, right? And I told you about the extended battery life because today's context, the applications that we use and the bandwidth really need power. So our models, our laptops gives you certain models 24 plus hours of battery life. Plus we have accessories like power banks. You would have used power banks to recharge your mobile devices like your smartphone. Similarly, we have innovative devices like power banks to power the mobile devices that we have, the Latitude portfolio, which will give you extended battery life during when you are in a, when you're on the field. If you want to recharge, if you don't have power, you can charge it using Dell power banks. Plus, we have incorporated the very latest Express Charge 2.0 to charge your laptop within 40 minutes so that you are again connected to the outside world. You don't have to worry about the power. We have incorporated the very latest technologies on our latest Latitude portfolio. And then we have various type of accessories. I'm going to share you some the videos where we have the latest devices in my later presentation, right? And then I talked to you about the rugged devices that we have. We have rugged devices for various verticals. And we have extreme rugged devices as well as we have rugged laptops, right? And this has been targeted for industries like oil and gas. This has been designed for outside world. It is cloud capable, and it is also works under direct sunlight, right? It's readable even on the direct sunlight, right? And we use different technologies, and we have anti-glare, right? It's completely applied on the touchscreen, right? Also, it's cloud capable, right? People who are on the oil and gas industries no need to remove gloves. You still can use it with the gloves. So these devices are available with us. If you want any information, please speak to our sponsor, the SoftLogic Information Technologies, who will help you with this information, right? And then for people who want extra power, we still can provide extra power with hot swappable batteries on our rugged devices. Okay, and these are some of the the use cases where the rugged devices are used, where firefighters are using our devices, right? And even for this can be docked in vehicles, so this is ideally good for police, army, or maybe logistics who wants to scan barcodes and immediately put the stocks into the system without any problem, right? And coming back to our workstations, and I'm really happy to share some of the experiences. Even Dr. Rohan also shared those during his presentation. We do contribute and we do help organizations or the industries to achieve their augmented reality or maybe artificial intelligence, machine learning capabilities. During one of the trainings that I was undergone in Malaysia, that I saw a video that using artificial intelligence, they do a surgery uh, in a simulation similarly to this. Also, we have advised certain organizations for technical people to support remote organizations to provide information on the defective machines using this technologies. So we are happy to help organizations providing the right devices. We have precision workstations for that. And we do have headsets and the applications and the accessories to achieve the organizations or the research that organizations want, right? So these workstations, we work with industry certified vendors. We work on Schlumberger, Halliburton, and then we are into media and entertainment, manufacturing, healthcare, you see, whatnot. We are in everywhere, and we can help you with all these industries with correct applications. And our systems are certified by the industry software vendors, like independent software vendors like Adobe, maybe Modo, Schlumberger. So our devices, the applications are tested and certified for any industry. So therefore, if you want to make any inquiries about our workstations, we are happy to support you. We have various form factors, starting from fixed solutions to rack solutions, plus mobile devices. And this is some of the products that we have ready for virtual reality. We have starting from small to our top series, 7000 series plus mobile series. And then we have 4 design system for artificial intelligence. And these are some of the devices that we have. And this is our portfolio. We have fixed as well as mobile as well as rack solutions. The rack solutions are ideally good to save space plus for security. And it has one-to-one connections plus one-to-many. Many people can access rather than going for one device. So there are a lot of solutions we have in our portfolios to offer any customers that who wants these devices. If time permits, I can share some of the display and client peripherals that we have. And these are the innovative products that we have introduced very recently, because the new normal today, as we experience the pandemic, which is going to be here almost about another 2 years, right? So organizations have adapted to new ways of communicating, collaborating. And by looking at that, we have innovated 3 new products for conferencing. I just want to share you those, the products. Like I said, remote work is here. Everybody knows that we work remotely. Some had to go to office, some had to work from home. And how do we communicate with our peers? Because the meetings with peers face-to-face have stopped. And for that, all these devices that the organizations want is under one roof. We have these devices, and I'm just wanted to share you this video without taking much time. All right, I think you experienced the very latest technologies that Dell Technologies has, the conferencing monitor certified by MS Teams and Skype certified. Plus, this is my last the slide that I want to share with you, the client peripherals that we have. And ladies and gentlemen, if you have any inquiries, please do in touch with our partners of Logic Information Technologies, who will help you with all this information. And I would like to end my presentation. Thank you very much, everyone. And if there are any questions I would like to take, please let me know. If no questions, let me hand over back to the panel where you can continue with the presentation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hettianachi.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
Wait, excuse me. Hello?
Yes.
I'm Dr. Thirina. Interesting talk for some of the new technologies that you have been presenting. Just a quick question. Do you guys have any sort of devices coming or technologies coming where we can have mass sort of Zoom sessions where we can have multiple people around the clock and the devices can pinpoint on each speaker who's speaking, who's asking questions?
Well, can I couldn't get your name.
Sorry?
I couldn't. Terina, what you say is when there are a team of members who are in a conference and then when each individual speaks to identify who this is, right?
Not by the name, but you can identify somebody speaking up. No? So, for example, somewhere like this, where we have where we have people around the meeting room and having some people on the Zoom as well.
Okay.
Is there any possibility we can just ask somebody to ask a question, not like having these devices and all, with a single device, detect whoever the person who's speaking up.
Okay.
I can ask the question.
Yes. So what I can do is let me come back to you. It's a good question and really love to come back to you. At this moment, I am not able to answer you right now whether I can support you, but definitely I will come back to you if you can share your information with our partner. I will come back to you. Because right now, Sri Lanka, we see, as Dr. Rohan earlier presented a super presentation, and unfortunately, what has happened is the technologies, if we bring down to Sri Lanka and if we can implement, we are a good nation and we would love to definitely support all that. But certain devices are not enabled for Sri Lanka, but we are just trying to enable those devices. But I think I would come back to you and let me come back to you, Tilin, on that.
Yes, please. Yes. Thank you. Thank you for your talk as well.
I think it is. It was really interesting. But I'm sorry I took more than the time that was given to me.
No worries.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hettianachi, for the support you have shown ICTer 21 and your speech. And with that, let's look at some of the videos from our other sponsors and acknowledge their contribution to our conference as well.
Welcome to the new age of intelligence. Present only your best. See beyond the ordinary. Collaborate clearer than ever. Personalized performance. Power every kind of project. And change the world for better. The new Latitude family. Welcome to the new age of intelligence.
Open a Dell Precision mobile workstation, and a world of opportunity unfolds. Turn your thoughts into breakthroughs. Into results. Expand your boundaries. Get the limitless power to create the world around you, to build tomorrow's innovations today.
I researched every product on the market. I mean, pretty much anything there was for point of sale.
We were attracted to the cake system initially because of the entry cost was so low. But then when we got deeper into it and we saw the efficiencies that it added to the business, you can't really put a value on that.
Part of it was like, why didn't I embrace this earlier? And the other part of me saying, thank God I did it and I did it now.
Welcome to Cake, a fully integrated technology platform. Cake technology solutions are built exclusively to meet the unique needs and specific demands for quick serve and full service restaurants.
Thousands of our customers are using these solutions today, and we keep hearing the same things over and over. And that is, this makes their life easier. It helps them run their restaurants better. It helps them succeed.
Mad Mobile is a company that is driven by a passion around mobile and enabling mobile transactions. Every transaction is going to be mobile, whether it's the associate or the server on the floor, or it's the customer or the guest on their own device. Everything's absolutely going to be mobile in the future. And we've teamed up with Apple to try and make it as easy as possible for restaurants, for retailers, and other organizations to get to mobile very quickly. We worked together and figured out, what are the things that we want to do to, empower those associates on the floor? What are the journeys that we want to make sure that we solve? And then how do we get to that data, and how do we integrate closely with those systems of record, in particular, the point of sale system? And together with Apple, we're working with some of the biggest retailers in the world, from here to Japan.
Welcome to the new age of intelligence. Jump into productivity. Connect to the world around you. See beyond the ordinary. Step up your style. Empower peak performance. Transform every call. Welcome to the new age of intelligence.